Greetings, fanatics, and welcome to FAB Five Freestyle, our first podcast video of our new video series. I'm Bambi.
I'm Donovan.
I'm Remco.
And I'm Srini.
So today we've got three members of the Fab Five, along with our guest host, the Towering Titan. We'll catch in with the Towering Titan later in the episode. Today, what we want to do is spend some time talking to you all, not doing our regular weekly or fortnightly videos on gameplay, but instead just having a general chat about what we all want to see from Monarch. As we saw just yesterday, Monarch has now been delayed by a week, but we're all certainly super hyped to see what's going to come out of the set. There's a lot of cards in there, a lot to speculate on because we still don't have any spoilers. So what are all card gamers good at? Speculation. So that's what we're here to do today, to talk about our wants, our desires, and our dreams for the Monarch set. So first and foremost, is everyone excited for Monarch?
I am, for sure. I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah, like off the charts.
finally.
Yeah, I think that's the same for me, exactly, Remco, right? I mean, we got Crucible of War back in August, was it? So it feels like
August,
a lifetime ago already that we had a set. Crucible was a really small set as well, so it didn't add lots to the game, whereas in Monarch now we've got, 320-something cards, I believe?
307 cards, to be exact.
Yeah.
307 cards. Like, that's a lot of cards. Like, that's a big set even for something like Magic, right? To
Yeah.
pump out that kind of set number. And I think that's their business model now, right? Is to go for these twice a year, at least it looks like, with the quarters they're pushing their releases into, and release bigger print runs of more cards, which I'll say, at least from me personally, and Don and Remco probably remember me saying this, when we had this with Crucible, I was complaining a lot about, man, like, they're taking so long to do sets, but considering the amount of games that are being played of Flesh and Bloods, there's still lots of discovery there, even with just the small card pool that's available to us. So I'm excited to see what we're going to get from Monarch. So who wants to kick this off then and give us the first thing that they're interested in seeing in Monarch? Sweeney, you've got a face of someone who's got something on the tip of their tongue there, so kick us off, Towering Titan. What you got for us?
Basically, obviously, I'd spend my days addicted to YouTube, watching every bit of content under the sun. Obviously, you guys included. A lot of people have speculated and have said that the main thing in Monarch is some form of change or addition to the pitching system, and that the game isn't complete until Monarch hits, where they're going to flesh out the last part of the pitching system, which is what I've kind of been thinking of and where my thoughts have lied. To me, it's just going to be like, how is this going to affect the game? The game is already like so deep, and I've only just learnt that now from playing a lot more games than I have previously. But is it going to be something where, like, what I've been going over is some form of like tithe mechanic? If you're going to introduce like favors of like some kind of gods, maybe like light and dark favors, and you have to commit to paying some resources per turn or something, like for a 3-turn strategy. I don't know, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting, where it's like some form of tithe mechanic. But I mean, obviously, I could be wrong.
So
what I'm thinking. Yeah.
No, go for it, Don.
What I'm thinking right now, we all played a game before this game. We shared that hobby, Game of Thrones, the card game, where you picked your faction card. Whereas I think the faction is the hero, and in Game of Thrones we had an agenda, which really decided how you were going to build your deck. Obviously, with Flesh and Blood, you have your hero, your class, and your hero, but maybe they will add something to that, which will make it like similar to picking your agenda for Game of Thrones. Maybe they will include something similar, and then that could be light and it could be dark. So where you have to like pick a side, and it will influence on how you will have to play the game, or cards that you can add to your deck, maybe somewhere in the middle of like neutral cards and class specific cards. So an extra layer in between that area. That's just thinking out loud here.
So Sweeney, what's this speculation coming from online then? I'm guessing there's no disclosed sources stating that, there is something specific that's been confirmed by a source. So it's purely speculation. But why are people identifying that they think there is a missing pitch mechanic? What's giving them that indication?
From the interviews I've listened to, mainly I think it was Jacob Pearson. I think it was on Outcast Haven. I think he was talking about obviously Monarch and how excited they were, and could he give any info or what's his speculations? Basically, what we're doing now. And I think there was a statement from when they did the Blitz calling. Mm-hmm. I think that was kind of dropped by LSS. I think I might be wrong, but I don't know. I think it's been mentioned in a couple of interviews where they basically said that it's not complete until Monarch hits. Which is just like how is the game not complete?
Yeah. I guess what LSS have been very good at is driving the hype, right? I mean, cold foils and collectability, but certainly something like this, which is unofficially official by the sounds of it, certainly makes people a bit more hyped for the gameplay part of the Monarch release, not just the collectability and kind of new card releases. If there's an extra layer of the game still to come, then that makes it even more exciting. I'm super curious now because I hadn't read this anywhere to see how they do that. And being a board gamer, there's so many iterations of how you could implement that kind of mechanic and what you could do with it from a game system point of view. That adds a lot of endless abilities to card effects as well and things, right? If you're adding in something that is impacted by this extra pitch mechanic, you can add extra abilities and effects into cards that also play off of that pitch element. So curious to see how that pans out. I guess we've got a few weeks left to go, but that's certainly a big topic item. Have there been any other than speculations or unofficial statements from people around additional core game mechanic additions in Monarch then, or just this pitch element?
No, as far as I know, it was basically just that the game isn't complete until Monarch hits. Okay. And I think it does revolve maybe around the pitch system, I think. But then again, like I said, nothing has been fully disclosed. Nothing's been hinted at. It's basically just been the whole thing of the game isn't complete until Monarch hits. But I don't know if it surprised any of you guys. But when obviously we learnt that Monarch was coming, what kind of box art did you see coming? Because I didn't see light and dark at all, and that just threw me. And I'm just I thought I had it figured out. I thought I knew what was coming, and clearly not. It's just thrown me.
Yeah, especially because they had a bit of an image around Monarch, and some art on the Monarch logo was disclosed before we saw the overall artwork. Yeah. And I think like everyone else, we were expecting something like nobility, kings and queens, traditional Monarch aspects, not this at all. Which I'm not saying I was disappointed, but I think for my own personal taste, angels and demons and stuff, I'm meh. I quite like the idea of grandiose nobility. Maybe, Sweeney, it's because we're British and we just fucking love the Queen. but at least that's what I was hoping for.
Well, I kind of want to tie into that light and dark system in combination with the pitch system, maybe. Maybe it is light and dark and you have to choose a side. And if you're pitching cards, it might be that for dark you can, whenever you pitch a card, maybe lose a life to gain an extra resource. And for the light side, you might opt to take one less resource to gain a life or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. I hadn't thought about that, but I guess if you tie in what you've just said, Remco, and what Donovan said earlier, if you've got some an aura or whatever word you want to use for it in the arena that says when you pitch a card, you may do X to do Y, and then you could have light and dark that balance off that differently, then that would be a really cool system. I mean, my magic brain is activated because then I'm thinking, yes, you could lose a life if you're on dark side to draw cards, or you could get some life link if you're light side. That would be super cool.
Well, if we're talking magic, in Magic there's also a mechanic that if you pitch a card, you can it's pitching its cost to cast it.
Yeah.
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 That would be super cool.
Yeah. Lots of cool stuff there that we could see.
What we have seen, we've seen the promos that they announced. We've seen the art, and we are very certain that those cards are both instants. So we know the type. We know that the type of the card. There are not that many instants around. We all know Sigil of Solace. There's a couple more. Guardian even has some that no one uses. Aetherize for Wizard that is not seeing any play at the moment, but
that's
might
what I
see
was
play.
Gonna say.
That's a card that only can get better. What other instants are there?
You've got Remembrance, right? That's an instance.
Oh, Remembrance, of course, yeah.
Guardian plays more of those than anybody else.
Runeblade can also have an instant card, right? If you've done arcane damage. Rattlebones, yes.
Yeah, but I guess it's not. Yeah. Is Reinforce the Line an instant?
Oh, I got hit by that in a blitz. Yeah. I think that is, yeah.
It gets +3 defense, right? Or depending on the color.
Depending on color, yeah.
But like you say, Don, like the main reason I want more instants is because I remember opening my copies of Aetherize and we're thinking, right, it's control deck time, baby. We're going to screw everyone up. Yeah. Put it in the deck, sat down, and I was like, oh, no one's playing instant, so it literally does nothing. So, yeah. Okay. Go on, Remco. You go for it, mate.
Yeah, well, I was just looking through the product info of Monarch. And I've looked through the product info of the other sets. Like the first set and the second set both had 5 legendary cards. And I believe that Crucible only had 2. This set has 6 of them.
Crucible just had 1, right? I guess we had the Krunic here.
Yeah.
But this set has 6 of them.
Yeah.
Could it be then 1 for each class and then 1 for light, 1 for dark?
That was what I was thinking as well.
But you've got generics, right? So
yeah,
maybe
but
not.
so if you're going for not other classes like Bambi would love to see, I would suggest that they do legendaries for the classes that have underperformed so far, and then a light and a dark one.
That's an interesting topic you touch on there, right? Because there have been a number of card games over the years where they've tried to rectify the game state to at least vary the meta to allow underperforming factions to take control. So the one that springs to mind is, I know they did a lot of stuff in L5R, where players were allowed to drive the story, and certain factions lost elements of their power when they were overperforming. I guess in FAB, we've got I forget what the legend status is it of each of the heroes when they obtain a certain amount of tournament wins, but we're so far away from that's not going to shake up the meta enough. I remember when Crucible came out, we were all hopeful that we would see some of the other factions become more prevalent. And certainly to an extent, you saw things like Runeblade OTK, for example, get more tools in its arsenal, no pun intended, to allow it to perform better, but it's still so far off the mark if you compare it in both Classic Constructed and Blitz to the likes of Dorinthia or Dash in Classic Constructed or Ira in Blitz. So, like you say, Remco, I would really love for Ranger or specifically Azalea, still don't know how to pronounce that name, to get some more tools to allow them to keep up with the rest of the competition.
I think that's one thing that I would love to see. So, and maybe it's just the 2 least performing classes, 2 generics and a light and a dark side. I don't know, but I'm kind of hoping for that. I don't want to see more classes at this point, I think.
There's 2 things I'd like to say about this. Do you guys think that we will see more classes, or do you guys think that we will see more cards for the existing classes at the moment?
Well, I'm hoping more cards for the existing classes, but For instance, it could be that we get new heroes for existing classes.
Yeah, that's
There's
where I
new
think it's going.
specializations.
I think it's going to be, personally, like 2 new classes, but I reckon you'll have 2 new heroes of classes that already exist.
Yeah.
I guess where my mind is at is, if you think at the moment that there are eight classes, right? I mean, technically you've got shapeshifters and merchants, which could be a class to their own right, but let's just put them to the side for a moment. We've got 8 classes. The more classes you add to a game, the more complex it becomes for a future state to maintain a semblance of balance throughout all of those, and also provide enough classes, enough class cards per set, that you're not going to have to do 400 or 500 card sets, which is just, unmanageable, right? So I'm hoping that they don't try and add more classes. They do exactly what Remco said, which is add more heroes to the existing classes and solidify the bases of cards available to each class to allow them to have a variety in deck styles, but not add more classes into the game.
I also think that if they want to introduce new classes, now is the time to introduce them. Like also what you're saying, because if we have 4 sets in, or maybe 5, and then they will introduce a new class, it gets even more difficult. So that's also why I'm really curious what they will do now, because Crucible was really a set to complement the first 2 sets, but this is like a set on its own. So this is like the tipping point of the game, like which direction is it going in the foreseeable future.
And that's why I'm hoping that they will do maybe a light and a dark side legendary, and like 4 new heroes for existing classes, and not give them a legendary as well. And maybe even a hero specific legendary.
Yeah. Specialization cards. That was the second thing I was going to ask. Do you guys think we will? So every class out there has its 2 of their own cards, right? Do you think that number will increase over time, or do you think 2 is like the perfect number?
Good question.
Yeah,
I guess if you think about the cards that are available to each hero, they do depict a particular style of play, and therefore you could add more hero specialization cards to further fill out that style of deck that they might want to play. But I guess also, to the other topic that we've just been talking about, it also gives an indication, right, that they have to release more heroes per class, because otherwise, what's the point of you having a hero specialization? And I think that's where my mind is at for Monarch, is if you look at which classes have got multiple heroes. I mean, in Ninja, you've got 3, right? Benji's a ninja, right?
Yeah.
But you've got some classes that have just got 1, like Wizard, there's just Kano. And if you look at the theme of Monarch with this light versus dark, you could quite easily separate a lot of the existing heroes into light or dark alignment based on just the cards themselves, but especially when you read the lore and where they fit into the story. And that's where I think they will place the legendaries, is to have some element of alignment with either new classes coming into play, or having, as Remco said, light or dark or something related legendaries that impact something else within the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just mentioned briefly around us wanting to see more love for Ranger. What other classes are we interested in getting more love for? And Sweeney, I'll come to you. I'll preface this by saying you can't just say Guardian. But what are you looking for, Sweeney?
So with that restriction in mind, I would like to say Guardian. No, I mean, obviously, yeah, thanks. I came into the game not knowing much, obviously I heard it from yourself, Bambi, really. There's a lot of stuff going about, I should try this game. And I looked into it and it looked okay. But then when I actually started playing it, that's kind of when I was like, right, okay, I'm addicted now. This is, as soon as I get back, like, this is something I'm going to devote to. And originally, I looked at Ninja and I was like, oh, this is cool. I really like the theme behind this. This is really cool. And then I played Bravo and I was just like, this is everything I want to do in a match. Like, I want to play a control-ish kind of deck. I want to grind them out, and then I just want to hit so hard. I want to punish them so hard right in the last minute of the game and just take it like out from underneath them. So it's hard because unless I'm playing draft, like all I've got is singles for a Bravo deck. So I don't really play much else. But
you can say what you want for Guardian, Sweeney. I'll allow you to say that.
Thank you very much. I want a shield.
Nice. Yeah, that would be super cool.
I want a shield and I want a one-handed weapon. But I don't know how it's obviously gonna tie in. I was thinking of like how do we balance this here, and it's just stuff like so the one that I've come up with is obviously Guardian Shield. Whether it could be generic or not, I don't know. But you could balance it by maybe obviously taking -1 counters throughout the game, which would lead a really, really interesting like interaction on Guardian v Guardian, because then the mangle becomes so important to wreck the shield.
Yeah.
The other thing could be obviously standard pitch to use it, so like your arcane barrier, you'll pitch 2 to defend 2. The other thing could be stuff like it could be broken by a higher attack weapon, like kind of like the Zephyr Needle when it's defended by higher. Obviously, thematically that would fit as well, but I'd like something around that. I'd love the fact of just like sitting there going, yeah, this is my shield and this is my hammer.
I love the shield idea.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I guess if you think about the mechanics and the design of Flesh and Blood, with the fact that, you know, even if you just look at a playmat, a hero can have 2 weapons. You could easily give people one-handed weapons and shields, right? That's a really cool design space that I'd never even thought of. So.
But you could even push that further, and let's say like they went into the form of like Gladiator. You could give them a net and trident. Like there's stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff. Like the thing, like when you look at the playmat and they've got 2 slots, like it's open for so much stuff. Like
what would the net do?
I mean, I've just come off that with the top of my head there, like, but it was,
right?
It might increase the resource cost for you to play attack actions.
Yeah. Something like that.
Because obviously you think about it, you're trying to weigh your opponent down, right? You're trying to trap them down, so increasing the cost of attack actions. Where I mean, it maybe I don't know, it might add some form of status effect where they have to use a weapon so many times to cut through the net. I don't know, but this is the thing, like it just grows and grows and grows, and you can get so excited all day about it. But yeah,
I really love that idea.
A shield for Guardian, and I'll be happy. I'll be over the moon.
It's so interesting that for Guardian, Anathos is the weapon everyone is using, and if there is a different weapon that could change the entire deck. With just a weapon. Imagine what a new class or a new hero for a specific class will do. There's so many small things that they can do to really break up the entire game with just a weapon.
Yeah, and I guess if you think about that design space as well, there are so many more options for different classes, right? Because, for example, in Wizard, you could have a wand and a book. In Ranger, you could have a crossbow and a quiver. You know, there is so much space there for design to add interesting mechanics to the game. So I've never really thought, but that's a really, really cool idea. I hope they do something like that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Don, something from you then that you're looking for out of Monarch.
I was still thinking about shield. The next thing I thought was shield wall. I'm thinking about this massive shield wall.
Shield wall!
Yeah, been watching Vikings last episodes of season 6, so I was thinking about the shield. Things I want to see. I'm also really interested to see new Guardian cards, but I expect. Let's not talk about weapons, but I expect a new hero for Guardian.
I think so too.
Because there's only Bravo, and I mean we all love him, but there's a lot of female characters on cards, on Guardian cards. Really interested to see a female character that can maybe pick up the shield and a different weapon.
Yeah.
Also, dominate is the keyword that Guardian, together with the crush keywords. Really interested what they would use as a hero ability on a new Guardian hero.
So that's one thing that when Sweeney was talking, I was wondering about is obviously at the moment Guardian focuses entirely on the crush mechanic. Do you want to see further development of the crush mechanic, or would you like to see something new into the Guardian play space?
I think the crush mechanic has potential to grow. What I would also like is for example, being able to do multiple crush attacks on a turn. They don't have to be like the biggest swings ever, but like 6, 7, and do that twice in a turn, where you at least have to let your opponent think about how to block and defend. Obviously, the hammer Sledge of Envelheim does not have a once per turn use, although we've barely seen decks that are able to do multiple attacks. But I would like to see that for crush effect, so you could crush more.
I mean,
not do
just to jump in there, man. So on Creator Fist, it specifically states all attacks with crush gain +2. So like, there's got to be something there. Like, there can't just be the one. So, but yeah, definitely.
To be honest, if I think Guardian, and I'm thinking about a new character, I would love to see them do something also with the Shield in mind, to do a new hero with something with defense.
Yep.
It's called Guardian, guys.
Yeah.
Guard stuff.
I want to throw a curveball as well, whilst we're talking obviously about Guardian. So Bravo, I mean, we can all probably make the alignment that if there is going to be light and dark, Bravo is 100% light. The card art on Mangle, that is a Guardian attack action.
Yeah.
But that's not light.
Yeah, he looks like an evil MFer.
Yeah. So what if we seen a dark Guardian?
That would be cool.
I don't know. Yeah.
That would be cool. Oh, I wonder if they do that right. Yeah. So instead of just having like Guardian or Ranger or Wizard, instead you have Dark Guardian and Dark Wizard or Light Wizard, and that has some cool effect to it. But one thing I want to point out before we move on to anything else is you said that Bravo is clearly light side. Is Gaston clearly light side?
Maybe that was just a move to push my Mangle aspect. But, maybe I was too quick there. But
I'm thinking more Johnny Bravo when I think of Bravo.
Yeah.
All I think of in Johnny Bravo is huge hair. I can't remember what he looks like. So, okay, cool. So now we're talking about classes. I guess there's one that specifically I wanted to talk about, which is all of you will know for a long time I played just Wizard until I realized that either the class is too difficult for my brain to comprehend or I'm just shit at the card game. So stop playing Wizard. But I would say Wizard is the one faction that's really, at least from my personal perception, limited in the scope of play that it can have, right? I mean, it has one clearly defined strategy, right? I mean, there's not much variance there in terms of how it can play. What could they add into the game that would allow Wizard that variability, right? Because if they just add more spells that deal arcane damage, it's not going to do much. It needs something extra. So have any of you guys got any thoughts on what they could add into that design space that would bring that to the forefront?
I've got a couple things that come to mind. Ways to destroy arcane equipment.
Okay. So what, like
certain spells where you can destroy their
arcane barrier
equipment. Yeah.
So like a Mangle type effect, but for arcane equipment that I guess maybe would, let's say, cost a lot of resources or something, but allow you to just power through it and then overcome them on the following turns or something. That's
yeah,
a cool
because
idea.
like it's
I would like
not
to see them
yeah.
have a pierce, something like a pierce effect, like so they can
Arcane
break.
Pierce.
So they can break through the arcane barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don, you were saying?
Yeah, also like it's so easy to include just for null round and then
Yeah.
go to a tournament and be like, sure, I'll respect Wizard. I'll sacrifice a couple slots to make sure if I'm playing Runeblade, I at least need one. So I mean, it's not. It's worth to run the to sacrifice the 3 extra slots to just go the full 4 null round if you run enough blues. So, I mean, it's the easiest way to count Wizard, and in competitive play, at least in Classic Constructed, it just doesn't make any sense to me that it's that easy, right?
So you've touched on something interesting there, right? So how much of people's sideboard or in Blitz specifically, your equipment loadout, a lot of that is at the moment people dedicate a large amount of their spaces to wizards, right? I mean, technically you could say they're attributing a particular part of it to Runeblade, but to play Runeblade you just need one piece of null rune, you don't need four. How much of that is because they fear wizards, and how much of it is just because there's nothing else that you would need to fill up those spaces with, and theoretically if we get more cards in Monarch, they wouldn't be used for null rune anymore?
That's the problem I had when constructing my my deck for Blitz. I just didn't have anything else I wanted to put in the 11 slots I had.
It's 2 reasons, right? In Blitz you have 11 slots, so it doesn't really matter, and also it really depends on the quality of cards that we will see in Monarch to decide whether or not that will influence the game, right?
Yeah.
So
Great.
the more sets that come out, that will probably mean more legendary equipment, more majestic equipment, as we've seen in Crucible. So eventually we will come to a point where it is going to matter which equipment weapon you will pick. So more cards coming out means more interesting deck building tricks that will just apply for armor.
Yeah. I love how I'm not having to talk about anything myself, and you guys are just saying stuff that I can piggyback on the back of. So one of the things you touched on there, Don, was about legendary equipment, right? So I just want to hone in on that for a moment. So I remember when we all started playing, there was this kind of general consensus, which was if you want to play Flesh and Bloods, like sure you can have a Spring Tunic or the legendary pieces, the Skull Cap, the this, the that, but you don't need them. Now when you go to a tournament, no one's making top 8 unless they're running all of those pieces of equipment, right? So well, yeah, I guess you're missing the Skull Cap, right, Sweeney?
I'm missing Skull Cap. I'm playing Helm. Yeah.
But you know, for example, if someone turned up and they were like, "Right, let's go," I'm just rocking 4 Iron Rot, like they'd likely just probably get beaten easier than other players. So, considering the card pool we have now and what we're likely to see in Monarch, how important do you think it is to have kind of chase legendary equipment pieces in the set that are absolutely essential for competitive play?
It's a good one.
I would do a lot to get my hands on those.
Are we talking Classic Constructed, or are we mainly talking Blitz? Because I think that changes.
Well, I guess at the moment everyone's only really interested in Blitz, and no one's played a game of Classic Constructed for donkey's years. But I imagine soon that will change, following the kind of the closeout of the skirmish season, and we'll likely see more of an emphasis on Classic Constructed. I hope, right? But again, interesting point there about the game in general is where do LSS place their emphasis? Is it something like in, I feel like I'm talking about Magic too much, but like in Magic where the format is consistently changing, there's more of an emphasis on standard for the most part, but for bigger tournaments, you know, you've got limited tournaments, you've got modern, you've got, you know, whatever it is, all of these different formats. do we think LSS is going to try and focus on, in the design space, if we look at the subject matter of Monarch, do you think they're designing cards that are better for Blitz or better for Classic Constructed, or do you think they're making things that are more generic?
I am just going to put it out there, and since they're doing Blitz constructed decks, it might be more of a Blitz set, but it's an educated guess.
I think Blitz came to existence due to the fact that LSS focuses in their main sets on both draft, sealed, and classic constructed. So the combination, they've always intended it to be a game where you can just pick up 3 packs and the draft is as good as the classic constructed, for me at least. So I think it doesn't really matter. I think their intentions has always been to make sure it has all those elements in the same game. So I don't think the focus will be on Blitz or on classic constructed. I think we will see equal love for all variants out there.
Go on, Sweeney.
Basically, just like how I got into the game was I looked at a classic constructed deck, and obviously I knew how Blitz works. So I was just like, well, if I focus on getting a classic constructed, I can always play Blitz for Guardian, like regardless. Guardian in Blitz is kind of similar, but the card choices are a little bit different. So even
the words you're looking for, Guardian in Blitz is kind of bad, right? That's what you really wanted to say, but
well, not with drone ban.
Yeah, that's true.
Not with drone ban. Yeah, so I think it's hard to kind of say, well, this is the emphasis. This cycle, I'm going to call it, is emphasis on Blitz, because I feel like the cards are pretty much generic. I'm just changing the cards for the type of format it is. So I think they've done like a really, really good job, because like I don't think I can really tell like what card is, let's say, for Blitz only, unless they're going to do that in a cycle later on, where they just go, you know what, screw it, we need an influx of brand new players, we're going to make a whole cycle dedicated to Blitz, and we're just going to run tournaments for Blitz constantly, like they've done with Skirmish. I mean, this is the whole reason that Monarch is so hyped, right? Like, they've released Skirmish events, which are not completely aimed at new players, but a massive influx of new players now.
Yeah.
They've got everyone set up and got, right, well, now we've got Monarch. So maybe they'll do that in the future as well. But I also really like how they're switching the big 10k tournaments, like the premium tournaments, to, well, this is classic constructed in the first year, now it's Blitz, and that's really interesting as well, because it keeps the game fresh and the player base constantly changing.
Yeah, so both you and Don touched on something there, and I guess this is, if I just talk about briefly my primary desires for Monarch, the main thing that I want is to have a good draft set, right? So considering there's 303 cards in the set, and accepting that we don't know the specifics with regards to the exact dissection of all the different things that will be in it, I'm really, really hoping that it's going to be a killer draft set, because, you know, when we started playing Don and Remco, like, we would rock up on a Saturday, we'd crack out like 2 or 3 drafts in the same day, even if there was just 4 players, right? I mean, we're just having so much fun doing drafts. Then when Crucible hit, it was a bit of like a dagger to the heart. It was like, man, you can't draft this. And I know at the like you were talking about a second ago, Sweeney, with the calling they had a few weeks ago, they had this format where they were doing a team draft that was Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising, and Crucible of War. But, you know, Crucible was never designed as a draft set, so I'm so hyped to do a proper draft again, but not just a proper draft, to go old school again and do a first edition draft where you're cracking cold foils, having a great time, and you've got that like real hype factor around the draft, because you're just opening every pack with that like excitement on what am I going to pull. Don and Remco, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. Sniffing the packs to see if they smell of peanut, because if they smell of peanut, everybody, you know it's holding a cold foil. That's how you smell out a cold foil.
I mean, also, I know why you're so excited, because you every time we drafted, or every day we drafted, you opened up a legendary.
Yep.
Like every single time. I think, well,
Or
out of the
fables.
20 drafts we've done, you pulled at least 6 or 7 legendaries.
Yeah, so at that point, I'd only bought 2 boxes, but I opened 6 legendaries and an Eye of Ophidia. So, a cold foil Eye of Ophidia, I hasten to add.
Yes. And I think in that
Wow.
pack was a Command and Conquer as well, right?
It was a foil. No, it wasn't a full Command and Conquer. It might have been. It was a Command and Conquer at least, and an Eye of Ophidia. So I remember passing it to the person to my side. They looked at their pack and they were like, "Why have you passed me Command and Conquer?"
I hope you broke rules and just flashed it like.
I tend to, and also the local guys are getting a bit pissed off with me now because I've opened that many legendary cold foils that I've said next time we do a draft, if I pop a cold foil legendary, I'll just put it on the table for the winner of the draft because people were getting so frustrated with the fact that I kept opening them. So
I'll book some flights
he
then.
did that once, and then he won the draft himself.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
That's such a classic
Bambi. Said
move.
it was the time he opened up a fabled card instead of a legendary, and he's like, "Yeah, I only said legendaries, guys. I didn't say fable cards."
Yeah.
True.
I also get really lucky that whatever I tend to open the legendary on like pack 2 or 3, and it's always been for the class that I'm already locked into. So it's just like it's been insane so far.
Very nice.
Talking about that, I mean, when I started my first box, I think we drafted it at Dawn's. So he decided that the box was mine, but we could draft with it, and then Dawn cracked a legendary.
Yeah,
And I was set to play Ranger at that moment. I already said it, I was going to play Ranger. And he opened Ranger legendary.
yeah.
A little bit later on, I decided my second class would be Runeblade. For some reason, I am really bad at picking classes. And then I saw James going to get another box, and I said, "Oh wait, there are still boxes left to buy." Yeah. So I bought another box. Boom, Runeblade legendary.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm gonna call out a new class every box I open now.
Seems like a legit plan.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've done a full circle one, so now it's going to be a bit of a free for all, finger to the trigger. Whoever's going first, someone else throw something down on the table with what they want.
Well, I still haven't said exactly what I want. I just piggybacked off you guys. But,
Tell us, Remco, what you got for us?
What do you want?
Go for it.
Well, my first love, Ranger. I would love to see one of the things that James already said is I would like to see a quiver and a crossbow.
Yeah.
Quiver should be that we can potentially at the end of a turn or whenever put an extra card in arsenal.
2 arrows in
Ooh.
the arsenal.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yes.
Pay a life to do that. Sort of.
I don't know, but sort of.
There has to
Or
be a
that we
downside,
could do
right?
or we could do is put one in the arsenal, but you could also put a card under your quiver.
Yeah.
They've done that in Marvel Champions with Hawkeye, where you can tap your quiver, search for the top 5 cards for an arrow, and put it under your quiver, which is a really interesting mechanic. It spices up the game. So it basically gives you +1 hand size, which is huge, especially in Flesh and Blood. +1 hand size is so big, where I feel like in all other card games I've played, it was also important, but because you draw up back to 4 every turn, drawing 5 or 6 is just massive, right?
You sit against an opponent who's got a 4-card hand versus a 6-card hand. I mean, like you know, especially if like they just take the damage and you think, wow, I'm probably dead at the end of this turn. Like their turn begins, I am dead. Like. Yeah.
But there is some cool stuff you could do, right? Like if you have a quiver, you could say that your quiver means you can put an additional card in arsenal, but your intellect is 3, right? So you're only going to have 3 cards in your hand, but you could put 2 cards in arsenal.
Something like that. And for the crossbow, I would like to have it go again.
Yeah, that's the difficulty that I've always had with Ranger. So I suffer from the same thing as you, Remco, which I think is actually a psychological disposition to wanting to play crappy decks because we know we're bad players, and if we play bad decks, it therefore means that we're allowed to do badly. But in playing Ranger, I identified the same thing, that I was just struggling all the time with not having enough things to do. Like, sure, I can shoot an arrow and do 5 damage, but unless I have go again, like, I'm just not getting enough critical mass of damage through to put you on the back foot. So you would just take 5 and then just swing back at me for lots more. So.
I find it interesting that Don also has a Ranger deck. And I saw that Ranger deck playing lots of non-arrow attack actions that had go again.
Yeah, I wanted to try out Ranger, the go wide strategy, but then not with only arrows, but a combination of attacks like the standard attacks, Snatch, and Light and Strike, even in a couple of Command and Conquers. It sort of worked out, but I just feel like the arsenal in cards and the fact that your weapon doesn't do any damage, that's just huge, because you also have the fatigue comes in as well. A combination of so many things that make Ranger overall just the worst deck out there, I think. It has lots of potential, but it's just not there yet.
I think it's struggling, isn't it, really?
What we could do is like have Ranger get a one-handed crossbow, just shooting 1 arrow like we have now. And maybe something like a dagger that can actually do damage.
The thing is, as well, if you make like dagger, you could make that generic as well, and then into the draft pool it goes.
Yeah. Okay. I guess one of the things I wanted to touch on was, and this is really coming from what we've seen in the meta lately. So I don't know if anyone's watched our most recent video, but I think I counted, and there was 8 or 9 copies of Sigil of Solace played in the game, which I just think is just dumb. Like, sure, ban Drone of Brutality, but I'd rather them ban Sigil of Solace because people may disagree with me. It's a card that requires literally no skill. You just play it, gain life. Your only choice is, do I include it in my deck or not? And the thing that I struggle with the card the most is just life gain in a game that, is already complex enough, and you're strategizing about the entire game. Throwing something in like that, I just feel is a kind of a bit of a cop-out. Like, it's not really adding anything that's layering the game. So my question to you all is, do you think we'll see more life gain effects in Monarch? And if yes or no, do you want to see more life gain effects in Monarch?
I'll jump in. Sorry. So the life gain aspect, I feel, will probably come down to the class of hero if they bring in new ones. I know a lot of people have said Necromancer as like probably a dead cert maybe, but like, what if it's Cleric?
Yeah.
Like, or some form of healer. Like, I don't know. Like, do I want more healing in the game as a Guardian player who's playing Blessings? I mean, that's fine, but at least I've got a condition I need to meet in order to gain the life. You're so right with like Red Sigil. Like, if you don't include 2 copy of Red Sigil on a Blitz deck, you're starting with -6 life on your opponent when they open their first hand and go, cool, pitch, attack with weapon, double Sigil, and you go, all right.
Yep.
Cool. I don't think it's a great card. I don't like it. I don't like having to include it.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I would love to see a life gain hero if it requires you to deck build in a certain way.
Or if you've got a life gain hero who has a specific new win condition printed on the hero effect, which is if you achieve a certain life total, you become enlightened and win the game or something, right? Then it's fine. But just having ridiculous life gain effects in a game that's so focused on chip damage, I just don't like it.
Yeah,
I think we will see more life gain, but not in the form of an instant. And to zoom in on Sigil of Solace for a little bit, I think Sigil only really matters in Blitz.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't have that much power in Classic Constructed because you start with double life, so double the amount. So it's has not as much of an impact, and I think it does add an extra layer because, for instance, when you come in with the command and conquer, you can defend, but you can still sigil. So I think playing sigil at the correct moment is huge. I think it really matters when you play it instead of
but the correct moment. The correct moment is my opponent going to play command and conquer? Otherwise, I just play sigil when I need to put something else into my arsenal, right? I mean,
it allows some form of tricky play with like, okay, coming in with the weapon swing, like Anathos, for example, coming in for 10, and you just go, right, well, okay, this sigil actually takes me so I'm alive on 1, and then I can come back. So there's some form of tricky play, but personally, like I probably see maybe in the future potential ban in Blitz.
I wouldn't mind to see it go. To be completely honest, but maybe if we see more cards that counter instance, then it doesn't really matter, or you get punished for gaining life. Like you don't get punished for playing the Runeblade weapon, the new one, but still, that's also a form of making sure to keep the game in check with cards that let you gain life. So I think there's lots of ways to make sure, without banning cards, that you can make sure the problem goes away. So
Sweeney, you touched on something when you were talking about cleric. So one of the things I have heard is people speculating about like a cooperative format against an AI-driven boss, where you could have a healer character that could heal other players and like that kind of mechanic. I guess I'm interested to hear people's thoughts on: do we want that in Monarch as an additional format element to cooperatively compete against a boss, or do we think, if I want that experience, I'll get it from somewhere else? Remco, your thoughts first.
I think I would like to see that. I'm just not sure if I want to see that in Monarch. I think it could be like a small expansion set. And then specifically, I mean the boss itself. Like the boss will probably have its own deck, so just make like you do the Blitz constructed decks now, the Blitz starter decks.
Yep.
You do 1 to 4 boss decks.
Yep.
In different strengths as well, so that you could also have like a story driven little bit.
Cool. Sweeney?
I'm kind of sided with Remco, I think. I think the way they've got their player base at the moment is because, I mean, the game is highly competitive, right? Like, I don't think at this point in Monarch they can really kind of go, well, we'll take the foot off the gas a little bit and we'll introduce something else as like a side mode. Like, I know they've got Blitz, they've got Classic Constructed. Do we really want another format just yet? Maybe not. I'd see it in the form of like a challenge deck, like we've had in Game of Thrones before, like the Varys one.
We also still have the ultimate fight, right?
Let's play a game of that, right? I mean, before we zoom in on new formats, I love co-op, by the way, but I don't think it fits into this theme where you fight against each other, wear each other down. I don't really see that in Flesh and Blood.
Depends. If we're going light and dark side, we could have like light and dark side bosses, where the light side boss could only be fought by dark side heroes, and vice versa. That would work, but again, not in Monarch.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is that, like, don't get me wrong, like, the entire concept sounds fun. If I want to do that, I'm not playing Flesh and Blood, right? I mean, if I want to play Flesh and Blood, it's because I want to beat your fucking skull in with the weapons and come at you with everything I've got and do that part of the gameplay. If I want to compete against the boss, I'm going to play Aeon's End, Arkham Horror, Marvel Champions, Lord of the Rings, the LCG, like all these other games that just do that better.
Yeah.
So I just have no desire really to do that within Flesh and Blood. Don't get me wrong. I think the game does have some really sweet mechanics that would work in that format, right? I mean, because if the boss is attacking you, you would still have to defend on turns. You're attacking yourself, but I wouldn't find it very engaging, knowing what we know about the game at the moment, unless they added events-driven mechanics and loads of other stuff into it. But again, I'm just like, why? Like, I'd rather you focus your attention on what we all love about the game and not do something else. But I just keep coming back to what you said at the start, Chris, about the game not being completed. Then my brain starts to go, whoop, 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 what could that be, right? So, yeah. Okay. Final question. So I'm going to ask you all to answer this one question, which is, I should preface this by saying, poor hosting, everyone watching. I've not checked this. I assume there's a Fabled card in this set.
Yes, there is. I checked.
So my question to all of you is, what do you want that Fabled card to be? Donovan, as you look to be the one that's struggling the most, you can go first.
Such a tough question.
I'm not asking you to speculate on what you think it will be, but what you want it to be. So you can say, whatever.
I want it to be a Guardian Fables card that that charges. I don't know, something for Guardian, and Chris will tell you what it's gonna do.
Because Chris wants the same thing. Yeah, we know.
I assume.
Well, it's incredible bias, but I feel like I'd be letting down my channel if I didn't ask for a Guardian Fabled, right? So let's see, what have we got already? We've got a heart, we've got the eye, which are two generics, and then we've got the Arcanite shard, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So obviously the option is it can be class specific. I don't think we'll ever get a point where it's probably hero specific. I think they'll probably just tie it down to classes. So they're all pitch 3, right?
That's what I was going to say, right? So for Guardian, having a Fabled is perfect because they've all been pitch 3 so far, so it fits perfectly into Guardian.
Yeah. If you pitch it, you create a search token.
Yeah, I mean that's thematic, right? I mean that's basically ends up being 4 resources, which would be the only card in the game that gives you that, right? So that would be thematic. I don't know. Maybe like to give some form of empowerment to just dominate for 0 cost. Like that would just be incredible.
It would be big.
I mean, imagine the surprise turn of just like, well, I'm going to take a lot of damage. I've got the 4-card hand. I don't need to even telegraph the fact that I'm going to give it dominate. I can give it dominate for free. I don't have to play emerging dominance. So maybe along that line. I really don't know. You throw me off guard there, like.
The Towering Titan thrown off guard.
All right, okay. 0 cost plus 10 attack for the next Guardian attack action. Either in the form of to create the seismic surge or to like give the hammer dominate.
Ooh, that is interesting.
Nice.
Because we don't have that yet. Like, that's something that we're missing.
Cool. Remco.
I would like to take another spin at a Fabled card. It's gonna be a generic weapon.
A weapon?
Wow.
Generic weapon.
It's a shield, right?
No, because then it would have
Shield can be used as a weapon.
Then it would have been a Guardian specific one. So no, it's gonna be a weapon.
Okay.
And what I think it might be able to do is still tie into classes, but it would do different things for every class.
Ooh.
How big is that card text?
It's going to be massive.
Yeah.
It's a scroll, motherfucker!
Yes.
For let's say Runeblade, it creates rune tokens. For Wizard, it could do extra damage on instant spells. or on.
Whoa! Come on, let's be honest. Wizard's already got a Fabled card, so nothing else for Wizard, right? I mean,
Come on, give Guardian a chance.
Right? Yeah.
No, but things like that. So small things maybe, but I would like to see them do something else than a pitch-free card, and that's why I'm saying generic.
Okay, cool. I want one of two things. I either want a.
No, there's only one.
Yeah, but I'm doing two. It's I'm hosting, right, so I can do what I want. It's either a Ranger specific Fabled that says if this card is put into your arsenal face up, do something. Now what that something is, I don't know, but potentially like opt 3 or something that fits into the Ranger mechanic. But the core of it is if it's put into your arsenal face up, it triggers an effect that's useful to Ranger, and you could have it be, I don't know, a golden arrowhead or whatever it is, right? Something thematic within the Ranger playset. But I think
all arrows Ginkgo again.
Yeah, that's potentially a bit too broken, but something that's useful for Ranger, right? Or in a similar vein, in Mechanologist, if you boost this card, do something, right? And again, you could figure out like what that is, but just something that plays into those two archetypes, but isn't broken. And I feel like by having it need to fall into those two play areas, the amount of space that it can create is limited to that specific interaction. But I think even though Dash does really well in Classic Constructed, like we've not heard much about Dash. Like Dash has gone on holiday for the past 6 months. I think she's chilling somewhere in the Caribbean drinking rum. She'll be back soon, but I feel like they would be two cool things that I would be interested to see.
I do think that it will be, because now what Remco said got me thinking, will it be a legendary that will have both a dark and a light effect?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
Or just do a light or dark Fabled card. That was my first go. Dark or light Fabled card, and in the next set, the other one comes out.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool. Fanatics, thank you for joining us today. Before we exit, I'm just going to give a 30-second window to the Towering Titan. So, Chris, tell us a bit about your channel, what it is you do, and where people can find you.
Right, okay. So, basically, I've always wanted to do some form of channel, and that was back in the Game of Thrones era, but never, ever got around to it. But luckily, I had some great friends in Flesh and Blood community, and I've decided to put myself out there. So I've created the Towering Titan, which is on Facebook. You've probably seen it in some form of Discord or even the Facebook groups. And I do currently have a Twitch live stream, which is Towering Titan FAB. And that's basically on the page. I'll link it to any tournaments that I do. And I'm working on a YouTube content channel, which will obviously be recorded games with commentary as well. So that'll be if COVID ever goes away and we travel to tournaments, I'll be hopefully taking my equipment and recording the Swiss and Top Cut games, or maybe it's just the final. I don't know. It depends yet. But
cool.
Yeah, so it's a whole load of content planned.
Awesome. And you're not just some filthy scrub anymore, right? You've now got a skirmish top 8 on your record. So,
So yeah, I played in that skirmish and went 2-4 on stream, and then said, "Oh yeah, sure. Let's open this message from Bambi. Oh yeah, let's play in Sacramento this evening. Let's get another stream going. I'll probably scrub out, but who cares? They wouldn't let me stream, and then I went 5-1. So yeah, great.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. It was.
So if you're going for like a good record in a tournament, you're not streaming.
No, I'm going to try. I'll try and beat that.
That's going to be the gist of it, right?
How about I try and win one while streaming? That'll be an achievement.
Is that what you're going to put on your like banner on your YouTube and Twitch pages? I once went 5-1 in a skirmish event. That's my only accolade.
I need to change. I need to change the Facebook bio. I need to change the Twitter bio. I once top 8'd. I'll just black out the rest of my previous history. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. Once again, Fanatics, thank you for joining us today. We hope to be doing more of this kind of video series where we just sit and talk crap for an hour. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll speak to you all next time. Wave bye-bye, everybody, like you're waving to your child.
See you.
Bye-bye.
And now you can stop recording, Chris.
Okay, cool. All right, give me 1 sec and I'll hit stop.